night is Halloween at the Winchester Mystery House. This massive Victorian mansion located in San Jose, California, is truly a living monument to the dead. Sarah and William Winchester were one of the wealthiest couples in America during the 1860s. William Winchester was sole heir to the largest manufacturer of firearms in the country, and with a fortune derived from sales of the Winchester rifle, the carnage of the Civil War and the slaughter of the American Indian in the West provided the family with an endless flow of blood money. Despite the Winchesters' affluence, the couple seemed cursed. Their only child, Annie, died soon after birth in 1866. And to compound Sarah's grief, William Winchester succumbed to illness in the prime of his life. Now convinced that she was cursed, Sarah turned to the occult for help.
She came across a spiritualistic medium in Boston who told Sarah that the death of her husband and daughter were caused by all the spirits of the people killed by the Winchester repeating rifle. And the only way she could appease these spirits was by building a house continuously. And as long as she kept building, the spirits wouldn't harm her. So in 1884, she moved out to San Jose, California from New Haven, Connecticut, purchased an 8-room farmhouse, and she started building.
It was said that each Winchester rifle took dozens of lives, as the guilt felt by Sarah Winchester seemed to affect her rational mind.
Who wouldn't have been deranged? She lost her baby. She lost her husband. And she was so guilt-ridden because the Winchester rifle was the one that had killed all these souls, so she had to keep building to house all these spirits.
Sarah employed local carpenters, and in 1884 they began work on the house that would continue 24 hours a day for the next 38 years. She was certain that she would live as long as the building went on, and that vengeful spirits would leave her in peace. With no plan or blueprint, Sarah looked to the souls of the dead for architectural guidance. Every night at midnight, the bell would toll, signaling the commencement of her nightly seance.
Mrs. Winchester met with the spirits nightly, and it was through the communications with the spirits that who directed her on her building plans. And the next day, she would go back out to one of her sitting rooms or gazebo, sketch it out on any kind of material she had, whether it be a piece of paper or maybe even a napkin, and give the rough sketch to her foreman, John Hanson.
The spirits directed Sarah to build a series of rooms connected by a bizarre maze of hallways and stairs as the mansion seemed to grow on its own.
She would build some of these rooms and some of the oddities that you see through the house, such as the stairways to the ceiling and doors onto walls, to confuse the spirits that she thought were haunting her and to avoid the spirits, maybe into tricking them through the house.
As Sarah continued to build doors to nowhere and useless cupboards and closets, she incorporated the unlucky number 13 whenever possible.
For everybody else, they use the number 13 for bad luck, but for her, it probably had some kind of good luck because she used it throughout the house. 13 stairways, 13 windows, 13 bathrooms. Whenever she could, she used the number 13.
With a fortune of $20 million and tax-free income of $1,000 a day from Winchester stock, Sarah could afford the finest building materials money could buy. She bought stained glass windows from Tiffany's in New York and art from all over the world. There were rail cars that were full of exotic and expensive materials waiting to be incorporated into the mansion. Sarah also employed gardeners who worked around the clock tending to hundreds of exotic trees and plants. Beautiful fountains added an elegant touch to the grounds, and the statue of Chief Little Fawn was erected as atonement for the thousands of Indians killed by Winchester rifles. As construction continued year after year, the Winchester house grew to hundreds of rooms, including 40 staircases, 9 kitchens, and over 10,000 windows, all for a single woman who never entertained guests, however famous they might have been. Even the President of the United States was not allowed through the front door on a visit to the mansion in 1903.
Theodore Roosevelt came by and wanted to pay Mrs. Winchester a visit because he was a Winchester rifle enthusiast. And the story is that he came to the front door. One of the house servants saw him and directed him to the back entrance, and apparently he didn't like that idea, so he took off.
By the early 1900s, the sprawling Winchester complex had also shot upwards, towering 7 stories above rural San Jose. However, the great San Francisco earthquake in 1906 would take its toll on the home. To fool the spirits, Sarah slept in one of 40 bedrooms every night. After the quake, it took her staff over an hour to find the mistress of the house, trapped in a collapsed room. The top 3 stories of the mansion toppled to the ground, and the front portion of the house was badly damaged. Taking the quake as a personal message from the spirit world, Sarah stopped building up and completely closed off the damaged portions of the house. After 38 years of constant hammering, sawing, and painting, all work on the house came to a halt with the death of Sarah Winchester in 1922 at the age of 82. She had toiled for almost half of her lifetime to appease the spirits, and it was now time for her to join them. However, Sarah's ghost hotel would continue to be a mystery even long after her death. With the death of Sarah Winchester, her home and belongings were divided among family and loyal servants in a 13-part will. Curiosity about the mansion compelled the new owners to open it to the public as the Winchester Mystery House, and now hundreds of people tour the house daily. But Sarah built the home for ghosts, so it is no surprise that her spirit is still seen and felt there. Over the years, a variety of psychic phenomena was reported by visitors and employees alike. Organ music could be heard emanating from the empty house at night. Others reported hearing footsteps and seeing doors and cabinets opening up on their own. Winchester employees who must lock up and close the mansion at night tell stories of feeling someone breathing on them and hearing their names whispered in their ears. Fog has been witnessed hovering above Sarah's deathbed. Tourists report smelling soup cooking in the kitchen and often ask the Winchester staff, "Who is that lady we saw in the Victorian clothing?" Intrepid ghost hunters who have dared to spend the night in the house have reported seeing balls of light floating in Sarah's bedroom and vapor-like apparitions in the hallways. Seances have been held at the Winchester house to contact the spirits who dwell there. So far, the ghost of Sarah Winchester, as well as the spirits of 2 of her loyal servants, have been identified. Sarah's well-paid builders and maids remain devoted to their mistress, even beyond the grave. One of Winchester's current employees recounts a close encounter with one of the mansion's former hired hands.
It was 7 o'clock in the morning, and we started to walk towards the kitchen, and I happened to notice something over in the hallway, and I turned around and looked, and there was a man standing there, and it was like a transparent image. I could recognize his features. I could even see that he had coveralls on, and he had bushy hair and a mustache. And he looked at me and turned around and he walked up the stairs. We went over there to see. I thought somebody was in the house. And I walked over there and there was nothing there. That's the only one I ever seen. He didn't try to do any of my work, so he's not in the union.
Spiritual counselor Sylvia Brown possesses the rare psychic ability to see and speak to residents of the spirit world where others cannot.
Ghosts are the inhabitants of this world that haven't figured out that they have had a death They've died, in other words, and they still believe that they're still in their own environment and we can't get them to go. I don't know why I can see them and you can't. They just come up to me. I mean, they just are in living color. They're in just full-blooded living color to me. Usually when I know that they're a ghost, it's because I see them very filmy at first, and then they become more harder, more fuller, and then they're just there.
Sylvia's work has brought her to Sarah Winchester's house on a number of occasions.
Winchester Mystery House is probably one of the most called upon places, the most fantastically viewed places as far as hauntings are concerned. Since 1972, I have picked up 3 to 4 ghosts. When I just came up here a minute ago, I saw Hans. How are you, Hans? Hans says hello. He's right in this area right here, right here. He says he saw Sarah just a little while ago. What was Sarah doing when you saw Sarah? He said tatting. Are you talking about lace tatting? Hans, you know something? I think it's terribly lonely for you to keep walking these rooms night after night, day after day, thinking you're guarding her. I'm not trying to be cruel, Hans, but you really ought to go on. You'd be happy. You're so stuck in time.
Sylvia made contact with another loyal servant, still tending to her mistress after death.
It's been very active because Maria, the maid, well, she's just there. Come over. Will you come to me, Maria? Yeah, you do know me. You saw me one other time. You see what's amazing about this, the phenomena of being earthbound. Maria still thinks that Sarah's in that bed. She still believes she's ministering to her.
Sylvia often tries to convince the ghosts she encounters to sever their earthly ties and move on to the other side.
He said, do you believe in heaven? She says yes when she dies. Maddie, Marie, Lafitte, you are dead. You are dead as a doornail. I am not being mean. Do you remember at any time in which anything could have happened to you that you died? Have you ever seen a white light? Have you ever seen the tunnel? I think you have. You just waved it away.
It seems that the spirits here want to stay. Or is it that they are afraid of the journey that awaits them? Whatever the answer, it remains concealed behind the many walls of the Winchester Mystery House.